All right, so what is the opposite of love, and why is this a topic? And I think it's been really helpful for me to think about this as I'm trying to figure out what love is, to think about what is not love. Now, that just because you don't not love doesn't mean you're loving, but it's a really good step in the right direction. So I asked a lot of people this question, and I get lots of different answers, which made me really want to do this, because it's like, well, which one's the right answer? Of course, that's what we want to know, right? So, in fact, when I did a dry run of this class, my ecclesia, as soon as we started, we were on Zoom, and one of the brothers in our meeting, I gotta stop doing that. He sent me a chat with his idea of what it was. So right up at the beginning of the class, people were sending me messages. It's this, it's that. So, and I had his suggestion in the class already. So that was great. Otherwise, we've been really scrambling trying to get that in there. Oh no, let's find some verses quick. All right, but it was already, I used a different word because I can't pronounce the word that he used. So there's a list of answers I came up with. You might have a different answer. If you have a different answer and it doesn't turn out to be a synonym for something that I'm doing, let me know and come up to me. And I wanted to say that too. Even if you don't have another answer to this question, and if I haven't spoken to you yet, I'm trying to get around to everybody, but if I haven't gotten to you and talked to you yet, then please come up to me and talk to me. I want to make sure I talk to everyone before I go home. So please come up and talk to me. Don't be afraid of me. Don't hate me. Don't be indifferent to me. We'll talk about that again at the end. So, and I will try to get to you. Hopefully I'll get to everyone. So we're going to start with, I think, what to most people, the first thing that comes to your mind when someone says, what's the opposite of love? And you probably think hate. So let's talk about that. And oh yeah, I wanted to say that one of the reasons why I'm doing a class on all of the words I could come up with, which were the opposite of love, all in one class, is because I only want to spend one class on this. I don't want to spend the whole week on these negative things. So it's all packed into one class. We can get it done and move on. All right, so hate. How does that look up there? Oh, that's huge. I love that. Ecclesiastes chapter 3, an amazing chapter and beautifully put to music. Does everyone know the song? There is a time. I'm not going to sing it. If you want to hear me sing, come to choir. The one that goes turn, 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 right? Yeah, so they did a really amazing job of setting this to music. And it's funny, it's a great opportunity if you ever somewhere and that song comes on, and whoever's standing around near you, just turn to them and say, hey, did you know this is from the Bible? Great opportunity to talk to someone about the Bible. All right, so in this chapter of Ecclesiastes, it says a time to love and a time to hate. And that might be something that you think about every time you read that chapter. It's like, what, we're supposed to hate sometimes? Really? Is that what that's saying? So, it also says a time to die, and you're not thinking, well, I guess I got to die sometime then. But it's in there, a time for war and a time for peace. So it starts to make us think, like, how are we supposed to deal with this concept of hate? Are we ever supposed to hate, or are we always supposed to love? So, but you go to Leviticus 19, and that's sort of maybe probably what you're more expecting, and Jesus talks about this as well, right? You shall not hate your brother in your heart, but you shall reason frankly with your neighbor, lest you incur sin because of him. You shall not take vengeance or bear a grudge. Ooh. Anyone here ever borne a grudge? I'll talk about that in a second. Against the sons of your own people, but you shall love your neighbor as yourself. I am the Lord. Now, I don't know about you, but I know it's true for me. Sometimes in my past, and I've been around for over half a century now, sometimes in that time, other people have done, said things to me, or not done or said something to me when it would have been a good thing to do. And I remember that. Stuff that people said to me when I was a kid. I remember what they said. They said something hurtful or did something hurtful or didn't do something that they probably should have done that would have helped me. I remember. And every once in a while, the memory comes flooding back. And in fact, I have one that just won't leave my head. Every time I think about this, I think of that moment. And then I have to ask myself, am I bearing a grudge? Do I hate that person in my heart? And what am I going to do about that? So I always have to talk to myself and tell myself that was a long time ago. That person has never apologized to me. I don't know if they would do exactly the same thing again. But I see them all the time. I have to work with them on committees and doing different things. And I have to put it out of my head. I could go talk to them about it, but I don't need to do that. Because I can just not worry about it. Just let it go. And it's most important that I let it go in my head. It's not just treating someone badly, it's about what's in your heart, right? You shall not hate your brother in your heart. So it's a challenge. I think this is a really hard verse for all of us, because I think it's probably true for us all. We all struggle with this. And you know, the thing is, what we're struggling with here is not bad things that we did to somebody else. What we're struggling with here is bad things someone else might have done to us. And that can become a problem for us. And I mean, if you think of our Lord Jesus, and we're going to talk about this more in a few days, some people did some really bad things to him. But he did not hate them in his heart, and he did not bear a grudge. This is a very special verse in the Bible. If you can come up with another verse remotely like this, I haven't been able to. There's one that's a little bit close, but not quite the same thing. For me, in my studies and my research, trying to find other examples, this is the only example I can find anywhere in the Bible where God says that he hates a person. The only one I know of. If you know of another one, all the Methodius Bible students out there, please alert me, because I would like to know if there is another one. I have a close second. But it doesn't say this. Now Esau, wait, there's the verse I want. There we go. I don't know why I have them in that order. This is the one. It says there, I have loved you, says the Lord, but you say, how have you loved us? Is not Esau Jacob's brother, declares the Lord? Yet I have loved Jacob, but Esau have I hated. I have laid waste his hill country and left his heritage to jackals of the desert. So the question comes up, does God ever hate a person? And that's an interesting question. I guess that opens up the possibility if God can hate a person, then I can start to think, maybe God hates me. And that can lead down a dark path. So let's see how we can understand this verse. We could argue from this verse, when we look at the end of the verse, I have laid waste his hill country. It's not talking specifically about one person. Esau is a representative of the descendants of Esau. And we can think, okay, well, so he's not directly hating one person, but I don't know if that makes it any better. Now he hates a whole group of people based on their ethnicity, on their descendants. But I think what we want to think about this verse is that God hates certain lifestyles. He hates what certain people represent, and this is representative. If it's just about God telling us he hates this one group of people, it's not really helpful to us in our daily walk. But it is helpful for us to think that there are certain lifestyles, certain attitudes, certain behaviors that God hates that were represented here by Esau. And it's not like all of the descendants of Jacob were great people either. It's not really about dividing people into people who are descended from this person and people who are descended from that person. It's about what those concepts represent. And here's the behavior that God doesn't like. Going back to the actual brothers, Esau and Jacob, and we read back in Genesis 27. Now Esau hated Jacob because of the blessing which his father had blessed him. And Esau said to himself, "The days of mourning for my father are approaching, then I will kill my brother Jacob." That's bearing a grudge. Hopefully none of us feel that way about anyone. And I can't wait till I get the chance to kill that person. That's pretty bad. But there's the behavior that God doesn't like. Now, one verse is in Genesis, which is where in the Bible? The first book. And the other verse we looked at was in Malachi. And where's Malachi? Last book of the Old Testament. So we have bookends here, Genesis and Malachi. And in Genesis it says that Esau hated Jacob. And in Malachi it says that God hates Esau. So that pervades the whole Old Testament. If we have the attitude that Esau had towards his brother, and God's not going to be happy with us for that. Romans chapter 9, starting in verse 22. What if God, desiring to show his wrath and to make known his power, has endured with much patience vessels of wrath prepared for destruction, in order to make known the riches of his glory for vessels of mercy, which he has prepared beforehand for glory, even us whom he has called, not from the Jews only, but also from the Gentiles. So in Genesis, Esau hated Jacob. And we're told in Malachi that God hated Esau and was going to punish them. We have the whole period of the Old Testament between them. And here we're told that God endures with patience vessels of wrath prepared for destruction. So there's our example of a vessel of wrath prepared for destruction was Esau. And he waited from Genesis to Malachi. And that's a really good thing. That's not the same thing as bearing a grudge. That's enduring with patience. How is that helpful to us? Everyone ever hear that, please be patient with me, God? Does everyone know this? No one knows this? Please be patient with me. God is not finished with me yet. Right? God is patient with us. And you know that thing, you probably hear atheists say this, and they say, I know there's no God. How do you know there's no God? Well, I sinned yesterday, and I wasn't struck by lightning. It's like, well, maybe God is being patient with you. Maybe he is enduring with patience the vessels of wrath that are prepared for that kind of behavior. He's giving you a chance. He's giving you time. So don't be looking for lightning. And be really glad that God endures with patience when people participate in behavior that he doesn't like. So another example of a family in the Bible, just a generation later, There was a young man who had a nice jacket that his dad gave him. And it bothered his older brothers that he had this really nice jacket. It was very colorful. And he used to wear it around. And on top of that, he had some dreams, and he told his dreams to his brothers, and they didn't like his dreams very much because it, involved them bowing down to him. And I don't know if you have a younger brother or a younger sister, and if they came to you and said, "Oh, I had a dream that you bowed down to me," how would you manage that? How would that affect your relationship? Especially if they were wearing that coat that mom and dad got them. They didn't get you one. Well, he had some issues with his brothers. And then one day they decided to pretend that they killed him and, pretend that he died and sell him to slavery and lie to their father and a bunch of bad things. And he ended up living in slavery for the rest of his life, pretty much. They hated him. They let those things that really didn't matter, they let those things bother them. They hated him in their hearts. But it didn't stay in their hearts, and they acted on it. And they did terrible things to him. And the more he said to them, the more they hated him, until he was taken away from them. And then later on, in Egypt, after they'd reconciled, and Joseph had let them know he didn't hold anything against them, and brought them to Egypt to live there, and then their father died. And this is what it says in Genesis 50. When Joseph's brothers saw that their father was dead, they said, "It may be that Joseph will hate us, and may it pay us back for all the evil that we did to him." They still didn't get it that Joseph didn't hold this against them. They were worried that he was just playing along as long as Jacob was alive, and as soon as Jacob died, he would suddenly turn on them. They didn't understand Joseph and Joseph's heart. And of course, Jesus had that heart. And he took these ideas of loving your brothers and loving your neighbors, and he took them to the absolute extreme. He said in Matthew chapter 5, in the Sermon on the Mount, verse 43, "You have heard that it was said, 'You shall love your neighbor and hate your enemy.' But I say to you, love your enemies and pray for those who persecute you." That's what Joseph did, because his brothers turned themselves into his enemies and did terrible things to him, and he loved them anyways. This is a hard verse for a lot of people, and it turns a lot of people away from Christianity because they don't want to love their enemies. But it is the essence. The Sermon on the Mount is the essence of what it means to be a follower of Christ. This is what Jesus wanted us to do. This is how he wanted us to live. And this is a hard one. How do you love someone that hates you? It is definitely not consistent with human nature to love someone that hates you. It is not something that you do for survival. It's our instinct to hate back. But it is not what Jesus taught us. In Zechariah, it says, "These are the things that you shall do. Speak the truth to one another. Render in your gates judgments that are true, and make for peace. Do not devise evil in your hearts against one another, and love no false oath. For all these things I hate, declares the Lord." So we talked about whether or not God hates people. But one thing that's absolutely clear in Scripture is that God hates certain kinds of behavior. And you might have heard the expression, don't hate the sinner, hate the sin. And that's absolutely, there is no question. Anyone here want to disagree with me that God hates sin? No one wants to disagree with me? Maybe you're too shy to put your no. I think we can all really quickly agree. It's very clear in this verse, right, that God hates sin. He hates bad behavior. And this is great because this gives us a list of things that God hates or doesn't hate, depending on whether it's positive or negative. Speak the truth to one another. That's something that he doesn't hate. Render and engage judgments that are true, and make for peace. And what not to do, do not devise evil in your hearts against one another, and love no false oath. That's a great list. Right? I think it's in a marriage. It's a really, I don't know. Tell me if I'm wrong. But I would imagine that in a marriage, a really good way to start with your spouse is to sit down and say, okay, what really bothers you? All right, what's going to really annoy you? What's going to make you angry with me? Tell me right now, at the very beginning. Let's get that out on the table, and we're going to work on that. Right? If I'm doing things that just drive you crazy for the next 66 years, it's going to not be a good marriage. So let's get that on the table at the very beginning. Let's talk about what things will drive each other crazy and sort that out and figure it out now. So here we have God telling us right there, these are the things I don't want you to do. These are the things I do want you to do. It's not a mystery. It's not hard to find. It's right here, right? Make for peace. Don't devise evil against other people. And again, there it is, in your hearts. Right? If it's never in your heart, it's never in your actions. So, a list of things that God hates. Don't we want to know what God hates? Right? Why wouldn't you want to know that? There's nothing more difficult than trying to make someone happy when you have no idea what makes them happy. You ever work for a boss that won't tell you what to do? Right? Won't give you any instructions? It's like, okay, be productive. How? Tell me what to do. What do you want me to do? I'll do it. I'll do anything. You're paying me really well. I just don't know what you want. That's frustrating. But God's not like that. God tells us what he wants us to do. He tells us how he wants to live. He tells us how he wants us to behave. And he hates it if we don't. So let's do it. So we're also supposed to hate. Remember we asked that question earlier? Is there anything we're supposed to hate? Yes, there is. It's not surprising. Remember we said, love the sinner, but hate the sin. We're supposed to hate evil and love good, and establish justice in the gate. It may be that the Lord, the God of hosts, will be gracious to the remnant of Joseph. So, have you hated evil today? Something else, this is a little different. Something else that God hated in the Bible. In Amos chapter 5, he says, I hate, and this is not just in Amos, it's all over the Bible, it's everywhere. I despise your feasts. I take no delight in your solemn assemblies. If you haven't seen verses like this, they're a bit of a shocker. When Jesus tells his people that he hates their feasts and their solemn assemblies. Who told the children of Israel to have feasts and solemn assemblies? Who told them to have the Passover? Who told them to have the Day of Atonement? Who told the people to have these feasts and solemn assemblies? God told them to. If God told them to do it and they were doing it, why does he hate them? That seems like the biggest contradiction. But you all know. You know why he hated them. Why did he hate them? Because they weren't doing them right. Where were they wrong? Where were they wrong? In their hearts they were wrong. Right? They were messing them up. And we have some idea of some of the things that they were doing wrong. I mean, there's an obvious one, right? Some people were taking advantage of other people. That was a big problem. Some people went hungry. Some people ate too much. There was corruption. There was just evil behavior going on in God's holy assemblies. If Jesus came to one of our solemn assemblies, would he be happy with what we were doing, with the way we were behaving, with the way we were treating each other? In fact, would he even be welcome at our solemn assemblies? In Matthew chapter 6, no one can serve two masters, for either he will hate the one and love the other, or he will be devoted to the one and despise the other. You cannot serve God and money. And different versions of the Bible have different words there at the end. This is the ESV. I think the King James Version has an interesting word, mammon. And so this is helpful here when it just says money. You kind of have to choose. You can't love and hate the same thing at the same time. All right, so that's a lot about hate. Let's move on. Let's talk about indifference. There's another word for it. I'm trying to get it right. It's apathy. I have a lot of trouble saying that word because, it's not atheist, it's atheist. So why is it apathy and not apathy? I don't know. But apparently when I say apathy, no one has any idea what that means. So I'm trying to learn how to say apathy. It's one of those words you learn from reading, and then you find out that no one says it the same way as you, and you're like, okay. I think there was someone in my family, I won't name any now. I think there was someone in my family that always said apathy, and it just stuck, and now I have trouble with it. So indifference. All right. This is Matthew chapter 25. We have some parables by Jesus there. And one of them is the parable, we all know it, the parable of the sheep and the goats. Amazing, beautiful parable because of the lesson that it teaches. And this is the lesson from the parable in verse 41. Then he will say to those on his left, "Depart from me, ye cursed, into the eternal fire prepared for the devil and his angels. For I was hungry, and you gave me no food. I was thirsty, and you gave me no drink. I was a stranger, and you did not welcome me. Naked, and you did not clothe me. Sick and in person, and you did not visit me." And then, of course, I don't think I have the rest of it here. No. All right. The people on the left said, "When did we ever see you in any of these conditions and didn't help you?" And Jesus said, "Inasmuch as ye did not do it to the least of these, my brethren, ye did not do it to me." Why would you not help someone that was hungry or naked? Or why would you not visit someone in prison or in the hospital? Why would you not give a drink to someone that was thirsty? Not because you hate them, just because you couldn't be bothered. You were busy, right? Someone else will do it. Now, this one's so challenging, right? Because we've all done this more than we haven't. How many people do you think there are in prison right now in the world? Does anyone know what country has the most incarcerated people per capita? The United States. Yeah, you guys have it made. You have so much opportunity here. The problem is, you just logistically, you just can't spend every waking hour of every day in prisons visiting people. So it's a matter of balance, right? How often? How many times? When you're driving down the highway and you see a car stopped, you think, "Oh, I should stop and help them." But you don't. Should you stop every single time? You would never get anywhere. right? And you know someone else is going to stop and help them, so it's hard, right? I actually stopped one time, and I was driving from Canada down to Michigan State when I was working there, and it was in the winter, and there was just two vehicles on the road. There's this SUV in front of me, and then I was trailing along behind them, and all of a sudden the SUV, it was, I guess, maybe the person driving got tired or something, and it started drifting off the shoulder, and then suddenly corrected. Don't suddenly correct, not on slippery roads. And it was an SUV back in the day when SUVs were notoriously prone to doing a certain thing, and it just did a flip into the median. So I had to make a decision. I had seconds to make this decision. Do I just keep driving, or do I stop? I couldn't keep driving. I stopped. And it was cold. It was winter, and in Michigan, that's cold up there. It's not that far north, is it? All right. So I stopped, and there was a young male and two young females. They were students at Michigan State. I was a professor there, so I talked to them, and they were like freaking out, of course. And I think it was his dad's truck. He just wrecked it. And I was saying, look, if you want to, you can sit in my car and stay warm and all this kind of thing. No one took anything I offered. Nothing was taken up. And the police came, and the police, the state trooper, he walked up to me and he said to me something very, very interesting. You might already have figured out what he said, because I think it's standard procedure that they say this to. He wanted to know what my involvement was in the situation. So he asked me one question. He said, "Are you a good Samaritan?" That's what he asked me. That is the term that they use for someone who stops to see if they can help. Think about that. This is a state trooper, and he asked me if I was a good Samaritan. I wanted to ask him, do you know what chapter of the Bible that is taken from? I just said yes, and he said, okay, you can go now, thank you. So I did nothing. I just stood around and offered things that nobody wanted until I was told to leave. But you know what? To this day, and that was 25 years ago, to this day I am so glad that I stopped. Right? It was just an opportunity I had to do the right thing, to offer myself in any way that I could be helpful. Even though no one wanted anything I had to offer, I had to stop and I had to offer. What would have happened if I'd driven on? How would I be thinking about that when I'm standing in front of you today? What I would be thinking of was, I should have stopped and I didn't. And now I can't go back and stop because everything's been taken care of. So, where are we going to go now? The Good Samaritan. So, we're going to read the little part that's relevant here from the parable and talk about it. I just got to check. Oh, wow, I have how many more do I have? Okay, I'm going to have to move along a little bit quicker here. All right. A man was going down from Jerusalem to Jericho, and he fell among robbers who stripped him and beat him and departed, leaving him dead. Now by chance a priest was going down that road, and when he saw him, he passed by on the other side. There's a song. I think Julie's probably singing it wherever she is. Pass by on the other. Okay. So likewise a Levite, when he came to the place and saw him, passed by on the other side. That's indifference. Whatever the reason was. And we think, oh wow, those people are callous and awful human beings. How could they possibly pass by on the other side? We do it every day. We walk past people that are in pain, that are hurting, that need something, and we don't stop and give them a hug. It's hard to stop. It really is. I mean, I gave an example when I was awesome, I stopped. I once in my 50 years, I stopped. And how many times did I just pass on by? And you know what the context of this parable is? What the question was that Jesus was answering? Who is my neighbor? That's the question. Why did someone ask him, who's my neighbor? What did Jesus just said that prompted that question? Well, the question before that was, what do I need to be saved? And Jesus said two things. Love the Lord thy God with all thy heart and all thy soul and all thy mind, and love your neighbor as yourself. That's where all of this came from. Yeah, how do I love my neighbor? Who's my neighbor? Whoever needs you is your neighbor. All right, I got to keep moving. This is a weird one. You're probably like, wait, what? Like? I don't have the second slide with it highlighted. All right, there it is. Like. Why is that the opposite of love? Well, I put that in there because of one sentence that I've heard people say from time to time, which contrasts these two words. You might have heard this before. Anyone ever heard someone say, you don't have to like them, you just have to love them. So that made me want to think about that. So we don't have much time here, so we read this verse before. Remember this verse? Amnon loved Tamar, his sister. Well, all right, let's contrast these two. This is the like meaning of love. Amnon liked Tamar. Amnon was attracted to Tamar. Amnon found Tamar irresistible. But Amnon did not love Tamar in the way that we should love people. He didn't love her in the sense that if she needed something, he would have, but not for the right reasons, right? He didn't love her giving love. He loved her taking love. He was attracted to her. He wanted her, right? That is this like kind of love, the take love. When we like something because it makes us happy instead of because it will help that other person. It's not giving love, it's taking love. Now, as I said yesterday, we do have to do that. And there's nothing wrong with needing and enjoying for pleasure certain things. It's nothing wrong with enjoying your food when you eat it. But it's not the higher priority. And we have to be really careful about only liking people, but not loving them. And only liking things, and liking them over people. Woe to you, Pharisees, for you love the best seat in the synagogues and greetings in the marketplace. This is a like love. This is a take love. This is not a give love, right? What is the best thing to do when you have the best seat? Be prepared to offer that to somebody else. That is the other kind of love. I don't have time to spend much time on it. It's not that exciting of a topic anyway, so now I have, 2-3 minutes left to talk about love and fear. So yeah, I probably need a whole class on it. So let's see how quickly we can do this without rushing. Impossible. Hymn 102 in our book, verse 3. No, I don't think it's verse 3. I think maybe it is. I don't know. I'm not sure I got the verse numbers right. How I fear thee, the living God, with deepest, tenderest fears, and worship thee with trembling hope and penitential tears. That's good, right? To fear God. Next verse. Yet I may love thee too, O Lord, almighty as thou art, for thou hast stooped to ask of me the love of my poor heart. This 2 minutes isn't going to do this justice, but there's a real challenge with love and fear. Who needed coffee? All right. So there's this huge contrast with love and fear. We're supposed to fear God. We're supposed to love God. But then it says this in 2 Timothy chapter 1, for God gave us a spirit not of fear, but of power and love and self-control. And now we're supposed to fear and love God according to hymn 102, and then according to 2 Timothy 1, we're not supposed to fear, we're supposed to love. Are you confused? I'm confused. Are we supposed to fear or not fear? Now, I'm going to tell you right now, all through the Bible, Hebrew and in Greek, there's one word for fear in Hebrew, one word for fear in Greek. It's very consistent. The Greek's not going to help us here. The Greek word, by the way, is phobos. where we get the English word phobia. And that's never a good thing, right? 1 John 4, there is no, I think was this the chapter we read this morning? I think so. There is no fear in love, but perfect love casts out fear. Yes, we read this. For fear has to do with punishment, and whoever fears has not been perfected in love. Again, not the same thing. It's the fear's bad, love's good idea. But then we get this verse, and now Israel, what does the Lord your God require of you? But to fear the Lord your God, to walk in all his ways, to love him, to serve the Lord your God with all your heart and with all your soul. Fear is good here. We're supposed to fear God. Are you confused? I'm confused. Are we supposed to love God, fear God, not fear? All right, well, there's a simple solution. And it's here in Matthew chapter 10. Here we have the word fear twice. And do not fear those who kill the body but cannot kill the soul. Rather, fear him who can destroy both soul and body in hell. So it's about who we fear and why we fear them. We are supposed to fear God, but we are not supposed to fear other people. Fear God, don't fear other people. Now, one of the ways that people deal with this is that they say, well, when it comes to God, it's respect, awe, that kind of fear. Well, we're retranslating the word, and it's the same word in both cases. Right? It's not about what it means, it's about who. Right? We are supposed to fear God, which means obey God, because if we don't, that's bad. We know what happens when we don't obey God, that God hates evil. But we're not supposed to fear those who only kill the body, right? Other people. The fear of the Lord is hatred of evil. Pride and arrogance in the way of evil and perverted speech I hate. So, fear of God is hating evil. And that's it. I had to kind of rush through the fear stuff, but I hope you understood the point there, that it's not about trying to make fear mean different things. It's about who do we fear. We should only fear God. So, let's love each other. Don't hate. Don't be indifferent. Don't be selfish. I'm trying to remember if we even talked about, did we do selfish? We did selfish? No, we didn't do selfish. How did I miss selfish? Oh, all right, well. Anyways, like people, but don't just like them. Love them. And don't be afraid. Don't be afraid to love. And don't be afraid to come up to me and talk to me if you haven't yet, okay? Thank you.